Every so often, a machine comes along that rewrites what we think a small engine can do. It looks familiar, yet it feels different. It challenges the limits of design and performance without shouting for attention. For decades, enthusiasts have been fascinated by the rare moment when form and function perfectly align, when a simple commuter vehicle becomes something almost rebellious. This story is about that turning point, when a two-stroke heart met Italian style and created something that transcended its humble category. We are diving into the world of the Vespa Rally 200 from 1972, a scooter that surprised riders with its mix of refinement and raw energy. By the end, you will understand why this particular model still sparks obsession half a century later, why its sound, its lines, and its presence remain instantly recognizable to those who know. If you enjoy exploring how engineering, culture, and design intersect on two wheels, hit like, subscribe, and tell us which machine you want to see next. The Vespa Rally 200 from 1972 emerged at a time when the world was changing quickly, cities were expanding, and mobility was becoming more personal. The Rally 200 was Piaggio's response to a growing demand for freedom in motion, wrapped in elegant simplicity. To understand why this machine became iconic, we need to look back at its environment. Post-war Europe had transformed the scooter from novelty to necessity, a tool of independence for millions. The Vespa Rally 200 took that foundation and elevated it into something aspirational. It was not just transportation, it was an identity statement. Piaggio had been perfecting its scooter design since the mid-1940s, evolving from the small-capacity utility models to larger, faster, and more refined machines. By 1972, the company had decades of experience, but the competition had intensified. Other manufacturers were introducing increasingly powerful two-strokes, and consumers wanted scooters that could handle longer trips. The Vespa Rally 200 was their answer. It carried a new 200 cubic centimeters two-stroke engine capable of producing nearly 12 horsepower, a figure that made headlines in scooter circles. The result was a top speed near 75 miles per hour, something few had expected from a step-through design with the trademark pressed steel body. The engineering behind the Vespa Rally 200 was deceptively clever. Instead of radically changing the frame, Piaggio focused on refining what already worked. The monocoque body was both aesthetic and structural. Its sweeping curves provided strength while keeping the weight manageable. Inside that frame sat the rotary valve engine, an evolution of previous Vespa designs but tuned for smoother delivery and stronger mid-range performance. Riders described it as responsive, lively, and surprisingly stable at higher speeds. That combination earned the Rally 200 a reputation as the gentleman's performance scooter. Design was just as crucial as performance. The Vespa Rally 200 maintained the signature rounded headlight and flowing leg shields, but subtle updates gave it a sportier stance. The front fender was slightly sharper, the cowls more streamlined, and the rear lamp redesigned for visibility. These small details hinted at motion even while parked. The paint palette reflected early 1970s optimism, vivid oranges, yellows, and deep reds that contrasted with chrome trim. Owners quickly realized that this was not simply a utility vehicle, it was an accessory of self-expression, something that stood out in traffic with effortless cool. On the road, the Vespa Rally 200 delivered a different sensation from its smaller siblings. The increased torque made hill climbs easier and overtakes more confident, but it was the sound that left an impression. The two-stroke engine emitted a distinctive tone, a crisp note that rose quickly through the revs before settling into a rhythmic hum. For riders used to the quieter 125 cubic centimeters or 150 cubic centimeters models, it was a thrill that felt mechanical yet musical. This visceral connection turned everyday rides into moments of joy. The Rally 200 made even short trips feel like small adventures. Yet, performance was not without trade-offs. The added power demanded more skill, and the lightweight chassis could feel twitchy at the limits. For riders who pushed it, the Rally 200 revealed both its strengths and its character. It was agile and quick but required a steady hand. Some critics argued that Vespa was straying too far from its commuter roots, creating a machine that blurred the line between scooter and motorcycle. Piaggio countered by emphasizing balance, power when needed, elegance always. The marketing spoke to both the urban commuter and the weekend explorer, uniting practicality with a touch of daring. Culturally, the Vespa Rally 200 arrived at a pivotal moment. Youth movements across Europe and the United States were embracing personal mobility as a symbol of freedom. The car represented responsibility and cost, the scooter represented spontaneity. The Rally 200, with its added muscle, fit perfectly into that narrative. It appealed to riders who wanted to stand apart from the crowd without abandoning sophistication. Clubs formed around it, enthusiasts modified them subtly, and a quiet cult following began to grow. What started as a practical machine was becoming an icon of style and independence. In Italy, it symbolized craftsmanship. In Britain, it found fans among the mod subculture. In the United States, it appealed to a small but devoted niche of riders who appreciated European engineering. The Vespa Rally 200's global reach was subtle but significant. Each region interpreted it differently, some saw performance, others saw fashion, but everywhere it appeared, it carried the same aura of authenticity. Riders knew they were part of a legacy, something designed not for obsolescence but for longevity. Maintenance simplicity contributed to that appeal. The two-stroke engine was straightforward to service, and the all-metal body resisted fatigue. Owners could keep their Rally 200s running for decades with minimal effort, reinforcing the brand's reputation for reliability. Spare parts were relatively accessible, and because the design evolved logically from earlier models, mechanics found it familiar. That continuity was strategic. Piaggio knew that keeping existing customers comfortable would sustain loyalty even as performance increased. At its launch, the Vespa Rally 200 was not the fastest two-wheeler available, but it struck a rare balance of practicality, design, and soul. It invited curiosity. Why did this small Italian scooter feel so alive? Why did it make people smile even before they rode it? The answer lay in the intangible harmony between form and function. Every curve, every sound, and every control surface contributed to a unified experience. It was industrial design in motion, and in 1972, few vehicles at any price point could claim that level of coherence. The Rally 200's influence extended beyond its immediate market. Designers and engineers from other manufacturers quietly took notes, recognizing how Vespa had refined power delivery without compromising elegance. It became a benchmark for what a premium scooter could be. Over time, the Rally 200's understated excellence shaped expectations for comfort, balance, and long-term usability in the two-wheeler industry. As the 1970s unfolded, it became a symbol of how thoughtful engineering could elevate even the most utilitarian concept. By the mid-decade, the Rally 200 had achieved cult status among enthusiasts. Its combination of power and polish made it collectible even before production ended. Owners formed restoration communities long before that term became popular, preserving these machines as rolling art. The story of the Vespa Rally 200 from 1972 is, in many ways, the story of confidence, of a manufacturer willing to stretch its limits without losing its essence. But the evolution of this scooter did not stop there. Its deeper impact on culture and mechanics would unfold in the years that followed, shaping the next generation of design and identity. That is where our journey continues next. The Vespa Rally 200 from 1972 represented a delicate equilibrium between artistry and engineering. However, its legacy deepened as it moved beyond its initial years. By examining how the Rally 200 performed in real-world conditions, we can see how this model transcended the expectations of a scooter. The early 1970s were defined by shifts in global energy, style, and consumer values. Many riders wanted something nimble enough for city commuting but strong enough for countryside touring. The Vespa Rally 200 satisfied both needs, offering a surprisingly robust riding experience that blurred the gap between lightweight scooter and small motorcycle. Riders discovered that the Vespa Rally 200 thrived under stress. Its two-stroke engine delivered consistent torque, allowing it to handle inclines and rougher terrain with surprising composure. The combination of the 200 cubic centimeters displacement and carefully tuned gearing gave it versatility uncommon for its class. It could accelerate smoothly from low speeds and maintain highway pace without strain. This dual nature was one of the rally's great achievements. It could be elegant one moment and energetic the next. Unlike some competitors that prioritized raw speed at the cost of usability, the Rally 200 retained its everyday friendliness, proving that sophistication and power could coexist. Piaggio's attention to detail showed in every aspect of the Vespa Rally 200's construction. The steel monocoque frame provided both rigidity and safety while keeping maintenance minimal. The enclosed engine layout kept dirt and weather at bay, important for riders who used it year-round. The Rally's suspension system, improved over previous models, offered a smooth ride across varied surfaces. It was tuned for comfort rather than extreme performance, but it had just enough firmness to encourage spirited cornering. Owners described the ride as effortless and confident, the feeling of gliding rather than battling the road. A major advancement came from the Rally 200's electrical system. Earlier Vespas often relied on simple magneto setups, but the Rally introduced a 12-volt configuration, improving lighting and reliability. For riders commuting at dawn or dusk, brighter illumination was not just a convenience, it was safety. That practical enhancement showed Piaggio's awareness of how riders actually lived with their machines. The company was not only selling transportation, it was selling trust. Each refinement built loyalty, and that loyalty transformed into reverence. The aesthetic language of the Vespa Rally 200 also deserves closer attention. Its shape was familiar yet subtly progressive. It retained the organic lines of the 1960s models but introduced sharper creases that hinted at speed. The seat was redesigned for longer rides, slightly firmer and more contoured. Chrome accents highlighted the air intake, wheel rims, and headlight bezel, reinforcing the image of precision craftsmanship. The Rally's emblem itself became a small badge of pride. To own one was to signal taste and mechanical understanding. The scooter was fashionable, but not fragile, stylish, but not superficial. What made the Vespa Rally 200 remarkable was its ability to appeal across generations. Older riders admired its practicality and reliability. Younger enthusiasts were drawn to its performance and individuality. It became one of those rare machines that could bridge different worlds. Some saw it as a commuter's tool, others viewed it as an extension of personality. For many, it was the first vehicle that felt truly theirs. The Rally 200 provided autonomy without arrogance, a form of freedom that felt personal rather than ostentatious. Mechanically, the Vespa Rally 200 marked a technological ceiling for two-stroke scooter design at the time. Piaggio's engineers extracted maximum efficiency from a simple layout, air-cooled, single-cylinder, rotary valve induction, and a 4-speed gearbox. This simplicity ensured durability. Even when subjected to long-distance rides or high loads, the engine rarely faltered. Maintenance was straightforward. Periodic oil mixing, spark plug checks, and tire care were usually all it needed. The Rally 200 demonstrated that minimalism, when engineered with intelligence, could outperform complexity. Beyond performance and design, the Vespa Rally 200 became part of cultural identity. During the 1970s, personal transportation took on symbolic meaning, representing independence, style, and self-expression. The Rally became a quiet emblem of these values. Riders did not need to explain why they chose it. The act of riding was expression enough. The sound of the two-stroke engine, the glide through city streets, and the tactile feel of the metal body created a sensory connection between human and machine. It was more than transportation, it was a ritual. In the United States, the Vespa Rally 200 found a small but passionate following. Import numbers were limited, which added to its mystique. American riders appreciated its European charm and efficiency, especially during periods of rising fuel prices. For them, the Rally 200 was both a practical solution and a conversation piece. It was the antithesis of the large, fuel-hungry motorcycles dominating local roads. It represented an alternative way of thinking, lighter, smarter, and more artistic. This perspective helped establish the foundation for the modern scooter culture that would flourish decades later. Meanwhile, in Europe, the Rally 200's presence in cities like Rome, Paris, and London turned it into a design icon. It appeared in magazines, films, and photography as shorthand for effortless mobility. Commuters loved it because it slipped through traffic with grace. Artists loved it because it embodied creativity through utility. In that sense, the Vespa Rally 200 became more than a product, it became a cultural artifact. Its proportions, color schemes, and even its sound contributed to the broader aesthetic of 1970s urban life. As time passed, the Rally 200 also revealed its engineering limits. Emission regulations and evolving market expectations began to challenge the two-stroke engine format. Piaggio eventually transitioned to cleaner, more efficient designs, but the spirit of the Rally remained embedded in later generations. The lessons learned from its frame geometry, engine tuning, and ergonomics shaped the DNA of all subsequent models. The Rally 200 was not an endpoint, it was a bridge between eras. Collectors today often describe restoring a Vespa Rally 200 as an act of preservation rather than mere repair. Each component tells a story: the patina on the bodywork, the faint oil scent from the engine, the unique tone of the exhaust. To restore one is to reconnect with a time when vehicles were mechanical companions rather than digital appliances. It is a reminder that progress does not always mean more complexity. Sometimes, it means perfecting simplicity. The continued admiration for the Vespa Rally 200 proves that authenticity never fades. While newer models bring improved comfort and emissions, few replicate its tactile charm. Its influence can still be felt in modern scooter design, where compact proportions, ergonomic controls, and subtle styling cues echo the original. Even as electric mobility rises, enthusiasts still reference the Rally 200 as the standard for balance, personality, and enduring appeal. The Vespa Rally 200 from 1972 has evolved from a contemporary innovation into a timeless reference point. In today's world of electric mobility and connected systems, it might appear simple, even primitive, yet simplicity is exactly what gives it power. Riders and designers continue to look back at the Rally 200 to understand why a basic mechanical device could inspire so much emotional attachment. The answer lies in the authenticity of its experience. Every action, kicking the starter, twisting the throttle, feeling the hum through the steel frame, connects rider and machine in a direct, physical dialogue that modern vehicles often filter out. That connection explains why the Vespa Rally 200 remains a fixture at rallies, exhibitions, and in personal collections across continents. Enthusiasts do not just ride it, they curate it, preserve it, and celebrate it. Restored examples gleam at gatherings, representing a bridge between eras when engineering was as much art as function. In these communities, knowledge of carburetor tuning, clutch adjustment, and paint restoration is shared like family recipes. Each Rally 200 becomes a rolling archive of the 1970s, a tangible reminder of when design was tactile and purposeful. But nostalgia alone cannot sustain relevance. The Rally 200 continues to influence because its core philosophy still applies. The idea of combining beauty, practicality, and joy in one package resonates across generations. Modern scooter manufacturers, though rarely acknowledging it directly, owe much to the framework established by this model. The ergonomics, the integration of structure and style, and the focus on human-scale performance remain essential design principles. Even electric scooters echo its silhouette, borrowing proportions that were perfected more than 50 years ago. The lasting admiration for the Vespa Rally 200 also reflects shifting cultural values. In a time when technology dominates, the mechanical simplicity of the Rally feels almost meditative. It demands engagement, there are no modes to select, no screens to consult. The rider becomes part of the process, sensing every vibration and adjusting instinctively. That relationship transforms riding into a craft. For many, that craft is what makes the Rally 200 more than transportation. It is a statement about living deliberately in a fast, automated world. Maintenance culture around the Rally 200 reinforces this sense of purpose. Owners enjoy the act of care, mixing oil and fuel, cleaning the carburetor, aligning cables. These rituals turn ownership into participation. When the engine fires after proper adjustment, satisfaction comes not just from motion but from mastery. It is a lesson in patience and attention to detail, qualities that mirror the original design philosophy of Piaggio's engineers. They built a machine that rewarded understanding, and that dynamic keeps it relevant long after its production ceased. Economically, the Vespa Rally 200 has also taken on a new role. Collectors value originality. Prices for authentic examples in good condition have risen steadily. But beyond monetary worth lies symbolic value. To own a Rally 200 is to hold a piece of design history that still functions as intended. Unlike static art, this piece moves, breathes, and continues to serve its purpose. Its longevity challenges modern assumptions about disposability, reminding us that good engineering does not age, it matures. In museums and design schools, the Vespa Rally 200 is often cited as an example of industrial design integrity. Its lines follow purpose, not fashion. Its proportions are guided by ergonomics, not excess. Students analyze how each component contributes to the whole. The side panels blend ventilation with sculpture. The front leg shield provides both wind protection and structural rigidity. Nothing is wasted, and nothing feels unnecessary. This discipline of restraint is what keeps the Rally's aesthetic timeless, inspiring new generations to prioritize clarity over complexity. Even environmentally, the story of the Rally 200 carries nuance. Though its two-stroke engine would not meet modern emission standards, its longevity offsets its footprint in another way. Many of these scooters have been running for 50 years, far exceeding the lifespan of most vehicles. Sustainability can also mean durability, the idea that a product designed to last need not be replaced frequently. In that light, the Rally 200's continued presence on the road becomes a quiet form of ecological efficiency. For today's riders discovering the Vespa Rally 200 for the first time, the appeal is immediate. It is compact yet confident, vintage yet approachable. It asks for involvement rather than passive use. In a cityscape dominated by anonymous machines, it draws attention not through volume but through grace. People turn their heads because it carries an aura of authenticity, a reminder of when machines reflected human intention, not algorithmic optimization. Digital culture has also amplified its reach. Social media communities celebrate restorations, long-distance rides, and customization projects centered on the Vespa Rally 200. These spaces keep the spirit alive globally, connecting enthusiasts who may never meet in person. Through shared photos, maintenance tips, and stories, they ensure that the scooter's relevance extends far beyond its production years. It is a living dialogue between past and present, one that honors craftsmanship and mechanical understanding. The Vespa Rally 200 from 1972 also demonstrates how a product can transcend utility and become identity. For some, it represents youthful freedom, for others, timeless style. Collectors preserve it as heritage, while younger riders embrace it as vintage rebellion. That spectrum of meanings is rare in mechanical objects. Few vehicles evoke such emotional range, from nostalgia to aspiration, from artistry to performance. It is precisely this adaptability that allows the Rally 200 to remain iconic across generations. Ultimately, the Rally's endurance reflects something larger than itself. It stands for the enduring value of design that puts people first. When machines are built with empathy, for comfort, beauty, and connection, they outlast trends and technologies. The Rally 200 is living proof. It teaches that innovation does not always require complexity. Sometimes it means refining the simple until it becomes extraordinary. As we look to the future of mobility, with electric systems, automation, and new materials, the spirit of the Vespa Rally 200 continues to whisper an essential truth: engineering should serve the rider's experience, not obscure it. Its presence on the road, still gleaming under modern sunlight, bridges eras of imagination and craftsmanship. And as we explore that legacy further, we see not just how it survived, but how it shaped what came next, how one scooter became a timeless symbol of motion, freedom, and the art of making simplicity sing. The next and final section will close that journey, tying its influence to the world it inspired and the lessons it continues to teach. The Vespa Rally 200 from 1972 closes its story not as a relic, but as a living symbol of what thoughtful engineering can achieve. Looking back, its journey mirrors the evolution of human mobility, from post-war necessity to personal expression and now to cultural heritage. Every curve of its steel body and every pulse of its two-stroke rhythm tells a story of craftsmanship that valued both efficiency and emotion. The Rally 200 remains a reminder that technology, when shaped by intent and artistry, can transcend its era. Throughout its lifetime, the Vespa Rally 200 achieved something few vehicles accomplish: it created connection. It linked riders to their environment, designers to their purpose, and generations to one another. It transformed the act of commuting into a daily ritual of joy. That connection has carried through decades of change, proving that design grounded in human experience never loses relevance. As electric mobility and automation redefine the landscape, the Rally 200 stands as a quiet mentor. It shows that even the most advanced systems must preserve the rider's sense of presence and control. In the restoration world, the Vespa Rally 200 continues to inspire dedication and patience. Owners who rebuild these machines are not chasing nostalgia alone, they are practicing preservation of philosophy. Each restoration breathes new life into old metal, reaffirming the idea that design is cyclical and that excellence can be rediscovered rather than reinvented. It is this loop of admiration and renewal that ensures the Rally's place in history remains secure. For designers, the Rally 200 is a masterclass in restraint. It proves that visual beauty follows functional clarity, that every aesthetic decision should serve performance and comfort. Its enduring appeal across 50 years validates that principle again and again. From its balanced geometry to its tactile controls, it demonstrates how coherence in design translates directly to emotional satisfaction. Even when parked, it communicates motion; even when silent, it speaks of purpose. For riders, the Rally 200 represents authenticity. It is not about horsepower or prestige, it is about connection and craft. Starting its engine, feeling its vibration, and leaning through turns are experiences that engage every sense. It demands attention but rewards effort, just as meaningful pursuits often do. That interaction between human and machine defines its magic. No screen or algorithm can replicate the tangible rhythm of a two-stroke engine responding to a careful twist of the wrist. The Vespa Rally 200 from 1972 continues to appear at rallies, exhibitions, and in design retrospectives, not as a symbol of the past but as a standard for enduring quality. Its legacy threads through every modern scooter that values balance, elegance, and reliability. When engineers seek inspiration for user-focused design, they look to models like this one, machines that manage to be both accessible and aspirational. Its DNA is visible in contemporary interpretations that prioritize smooth handling, timeless styling, and mechanical transparency. Half a century after it first rolled out of the factory, the Rally 200 still embodies the same principle that launched it: mobility should feel good. It should make life easier without stripping away character. It should invite exploration without demanding excess. That idea has never faded, and it continues to shape how riders, designers, and collectors view the intersection of art and motion. The story of the Vespa Rally 200 from 1972 is ultimately a story about enduring values, craftsmanship, simplicity, and connection. It shows how innovation guided by empathy can outlast every technological wave. Its hum remains distinct, its design eternal, its influence undeniable. For those who appreciate machines that reflect the people who made them, the Rally 200 is not a museum piece, it is a living conversation between past and present. And as long as there are riders who crave both freedom and finesse, its legacy will keep rolling forward, gracefully, endlessly, in motion.